Hola, and thank you again for coming to another episode of Devil's Advocate. This is your boy, the Renegade, aka Arinthus Frazier, aka that guy, and we are here live once again for our 53rd episode. Get that shit, Miss D, 53rd, eh?
I know.
We've been doing it a long time now, buddy, but hey, we getting better every day and every time we do it. So,
Hey,
without,
you got a catalog.
I'm sorry.
I said you got a catalog.
Man, don't we all? But for a lot of different reasons, I think I want to go this route for a second because for some strange reason, I am very comfortable. And we know what happens and what gets said when the renegade is comfortable. So there's that. It's just me and Miss D once again. And we appreciate you checking us out. Thank you for the love. Thank you for everything that you have done for No Filter and myself, as my personal. You know, and I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for everybody in No Filter. Roxy, Anissa, Miss Danielle. Now, hey, thanks. Shout out to you, sis. Appreciate you. You won't regret this one. Got you. Uh, just a whole bunch of people, in 8 different countries worldwide. Thank you for the love that you've shown us. And hey, I just wanted to take a minute just to thank you all the fans, and I really appreciate that. So, without further ado, we got the Derek Chauvin case. Derek Chauvin is a policeman who murdered George Floyd, and it just started a whole bunch of shit. We're just gonna say that. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can go into the history books and look, and he had a trial. He was convicted, found guilty, and was it 2 days ago? 2 days ago was his sentencing. He got 22 and a half years. And while a lot of people feel like it's just another thing, a lot of people are or just saying thank you. A lot of people are like on the other side of that, like he should have got more and blah 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 blah. So with that being said, Miss D, what you got on
Yes. Okay, so I'm well versed in Chauvin case. So
it? Uh-huh.
um there's a lot of mixed emotions about the sentencing. So of course, everybody knows he got sentenced to 22 and a half years. For some people, they feel like, they can breathe a sigh of relief, because for so long these crimes have gone unanswered to. There has never been justice. Rarely is there ever a trial. These crimes are oftentimes swept up under the rug. So the idea that there was even a conviction, the idea that there was actually the sentencing to 20 something years, it in some aspect, and to some people, I can understand why that feels like relief. But there are a lot of people who don't feel like that's justice, and I understand where those people come from, because there are people that are sitting in prison and with life sentences on drug charges. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's not to minimize drugs. It's not saying that drugs don't have impacts on people's lives. That's not to say that people have not died as a result of overdoses. It happens. But if I can get life in prison because somebody OD'd on drugs that I sold them, how can you not give life in prison for somebody who knelt on somebody's neck for 9 minutes that resulted in their death? Either way it goes, your actions resulted in another individual's death. So the idea that your actions led to that death, whether directly or indirectly, I feel like those crimes should have been treated the same. So a lot of people don't feel like it's justice. And for me, I don't necessarily say that. If I don't think it feels like justice either. For me, it's a lot of too little too late. But the only shining light to that is, you have to remember, he's still facing federal civil rights charges. So
Mm.
I can't wait to see what's actually going to come of that. And one of the charges that he's facing is the unreasonable force and seizure. And Derek Chauvin is being charged with that alone. The second federal charge he has on him, which are all the officers are being charged with, is the deprivation of liberty without due process. So the fact that they didn't allow this person any relief, the fact that even though they were asking for help, you refused it. And you had at the time, it was alleged. I still don't know if the $20 bill was actually counterfeit or not, but even if the $20 bill was counterfeit, the idea that all it was a $20 bill, and there's no way to say that George Floyd knew that that was a counterfeit $20 bill. Who knows where that $20 bill came from? Nobody ever established the fact that he was actually printing money. So if he's not printing money, you can't even say that he was aware that he had a counterfeit $20 bill. So for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like justice. But at the time that the officers showed up, it was an alleged crime. And so the fact that he died over an alleged counterfeit $20 bill, that was the deprivation of liberty without due process. The third charge, they actually went back to a previous incident where he actually knelt on a 14-year-old for about 17 minutes back in 2017. And from what I understand, I think that situation was reported and it was, of course, swept up under the rug. But it's interesting to see that there has been this pattern, and if you actually go and look back at a lot of previous incidents, look at their arrest records, how many were black versus white. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of video footage where you actually can see officers planting drugs. We all know that officers plant drugs. They want victories. They want quick wins. Oftentimes, they want to satisfy the victim. So the best way to satisfy the victim is to put somebody behind bars. And oftentimes that means somebody innocent is getting locked up. So there are a lot of mixed emotions about the verdict. But I really cannot wait to see what's going to come of these federal charges. So regardless of the 22 and a half years that he got with the state charge, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with the federal charge. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, look, the one thing I want to know about all of this is the fact that would this have happened if the shoe was on the other foot? I mean, we have to take a look at that too.
Right.
I mean, because you see how they treat these daggone these mass shooters. Man, they just put them in handcuffs.
Right. When you're talking about taking people to Burger King, don't forget the Stafford rapist. When the judge said he didn't want to sentence him because he felt like he didn't want to have a negative impact on his life, but it wasn't that you didn't know that this guy did not rape this girl, but you didn't want to have a negative impact on his life over a mistake. But what about the impact on her life? So you've seen time and time again where there are a lot of people who are getting away with a lot of criminal activity.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Just like, you hear about them like the mass shooters, and then the next thing you know, they're out of the news. Just like the one chick in Minneapolis that shot that dude in the head and said, "Holy fuck, I shot this kid."
Right.
I shot this kid in the head. I mean, you don't even hear about that shit no more.
Right.
And so
those stories get swept under the rug.
Right. So to me, it's all done for a reason. I mean, this can't be coincidence. I'm sorry.
Right. But you know what? For me, the worst part about the entire sentencing was listening to the impact statement. When Chauvin's mother got up and gave her impact statement, I realized exactly why he turned out to be the piece of shit that he is. Because his mom, in my opinion, is a piece of shit. So the fact that she was up here talking about how she would never be able to hug her son again when your son actually took somebody else's son. I understand that George Floyd's mother had passed, but your son took somebody else's son. And you're sitting up here crying that you're not going to be able to hug your son. Not to mention, it's only 22 and a half years on good behavior. Ain't no telling, he might do 7 years of that. We already know how that goes. So for her to get up here and plea about how he was a good man. When do good men kill men? And as a mother, don't get me wrong. I understand that as a mother, you're supposed to have your kids back. You're supposed to hold them down. You're supposed to be there for them. You're supposed to support your kids. I get that. I'm not knocking her for being there for her son during this time. Not knocking that at all. You're supposed to support your kids. Some parents can see past the birthright and say you're a criminal, but I understand the mother that can't. So I'm not knocking her for that. But as a mother, for you to be having the argument that sentencing him is equal to sentencing you, and not one time did you even acknowledge the family, not one time did you turn around and say, as a mother, I understand the loss that you feel as a mother. But for her to sit up there and want to defend her son, who the world watched murder this man, to me it showed how callous she was, and it made me think back to actually watching that video, the callousness that was on Chauvin's face as he was kneeling on George Floyd's neck and back.
Right, like he's just he it was like he had a moment of shock. I'm like, dude, really?
Right.
Okay, so you know what? That leads us to another point about that. Think about how systematic this train of thought is.
Right.
Think about that. I mean, you know, this is passed down from the slave master to his son and his son and his son. This is a generational thing, honey. You know,
right.
So since it's a generational thing,
that's so systematic. Go ahead.
That is the only way I can see, you know, any of this happening, because it, you know, outside of that, it would behoove me to just think that this type of shit is normal.
Right. Hey, it's so systematic that when it's challenged, it's frowned upon.
Yes, sir.
I don't care how wrong you know it is. You know it's wrong. Everyone knew that watching Chauvin kneel on George Floyd's neck and back like that was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. Everybody knew that. And the fact that, don't get me wrong, the world did collectively protest around that murder. So I get it. But for me, it wasn't enough of the world. Everybody, I don't care what race, I don't care what religion, I don't care what gender, I don't care what you identify as, I don't care about your political affiliation. Everybody should have been outraged at watching this modern day lynching.
Okay, yes. But here's the one thing I'm gonna give to you, you know, on that. And I mean, shouldn't we be happy that we got something out of the whole thing? Because honestly, you know, we're lucky that we've seen any kind of arrest or any kind of, you know, anything out of this one. And maybe that might be in a step in the right direction. And I mean, that's just me playing devil's advocate.
Do you want my real opinion?
Yeah, absolutely.
My real opinion? No. My real opinion? No. My real opinion? No. Because like I said, to me, it's a lot of too little too late. For me, it's symbolism. For me, so I watched the trial and I watched demeanors change. So do you remember during the trial, do you remember the kid that got shot down the street while the trial was going on, right?
Yeah.
So there was an instant demeanor change when that happened. And for me, I feel like the defense got sloppy after that. It was almost like he was told, look, we can't let this one walk. He's going to be the sacrificial lamb. If we let him off, the city's going to burn. Because there was a change when that happened. Because it wasn't just that George Floyd sparked the summer of protest. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that while we're having this landmark trial, another unarmed black kid is or person of color is shot by a cop. And then not long after that, here comes another one. It was like it just kept going during this trial that sparked the summer of protest. So for me, it was like, and if you look back through history, white men have always been willing to sacrifice a few for the greater good. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem with the black community, we've never been willing to sacrifice a few for the greater good. The black community has always thought singularly. We always think about I don't want to die. I don't want to lose my life. I don't want to. But you don't think about what you standing up for your freedom, what you standing up for your right actually means for generations to come. Because for you to die in the street begging, right? Shot in the head, whatever, for you to die in the street begging, don't get me wrong. I don't know if there's anything that you could have done to change the outcome of those events. Whether you believe you all have a time that you die, you go when the Lord calls you, or you just wrong place, wrong time. Regardless of how that happens, there may have been nothing you could have done to prevent that chain of events. But for your children to watch you lay down begging and dying in the street, do you know the impact that that has on that child? That's no different than what happened through slavery. That's what buck breaking was. It was watching those fathers beg and cry. It was the emasculation. It was robbing them of their masculinity. It was all of that. It was the rapings. It was the mutilations. It was the beatings. It was the separations. It was watching masculinity stripped from the men that impacted generations to come. So for me, nah, it's nothing to celebrate. He was a sacrifice to keep the city from burning.
So it was kind of a slap me and I'll slap you back type situation. In a sense, I'm just trying to simplify it for, everyone else.
I guess you could say that.
So with that being said, hey, if you guys want to leave some comments, we'll post them right here on the show. If you need to, please like and share. We definitely appreciate it. We're giving you some jewel nuggets for, free. So we're doing all of that anyway. Moving on. We've got another case here in Ohio that's, frankly, it's all stupid. There is a new law. It's going to be against the law to be a certain feat within the police now. And, it's a stiffer penalty for unlawful order. And that's total bullshit. And the first thing I said when I seen this was, oh, well, we're just like a step down from martial law. Mark my words. That's what this shit is being set up for. It ain't got nothing to do with restoring order. It's more or less power and control.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of power and control. I think that was their fight back to the Black Lives Matter cry of police reform.
Yep.
I think that's exactly what that was. I think they decided that we've had enough. We're not going to disarm our police. We're not going to take away their authority. They have authority over you. You better obey. And that's what that is. And it brings you right back to why the police force was created in the first place.
Right.
To capture property. At that time, property was slaves.
Now
to capture runaway slaves.
Yep.
So when you get back to this obey at all costs, you can't come within a certain amount of feet of the police. So you can charge me, but I can't charge you. I can't defend myself. And see, that's another thing. They look at, even if you want to look at the George Floyd case, with them citing the few times that he kicked. For me, in watching that, oftentimes the resistance that they like to talk about is not about us resisting. It's about your body's natural reaction to survive. When you get in a situation where you feel like this is life or death, those natural animal instincts kick in. Your survival mode kicks in. Your adrenaline jumps up. You're not necessarily always independently responsible for how you respond to that. Some people fight, some people flight. That's just how that goes. So oftentimes it's not about them resisting. It's about their body's natural response to feeling like they are being threatened, to feeling like their life is in jeopardy. So right. If you're holding me down and I can't breathe and I'm pushing up, my pushing up is not about resisting you. My pushing up is about me trying to make sure I can breathe.
Right.
Or not only that, if you are, and that's another thing, you gotta take into account how societies are raised, because oftentimes you're a product of your environment. So in the Black community, most children were taught to defend themselves against threat. I was taught to defend myself against threat. And we weren't taught to defend ourselves against Black threats. We weren't taught to defend ourselves against white threats. We weren't taught to defend ourselves against female threats, animal threats. We were taught to defend ourselves against all threats. It doesn't matter what shape or form that threat comes in. If you feel like you are threatened, you defend yourself. So when you grow up with that mentality, and a lot of the Black community did, you get to a situation where you feel like, hey, if today feels like I might die today, I don't want to die today. What can I do to prevent my death? And sometimes, and oftentimes, no different from if a burglar breaks into your house, sometimes that means they have to die in order for you to survive.
Look, it's just survival. I mean, that's it.
Right.
And they seem to have gotten us to that point. But yet we're out here killing each other in record numbers.
Right.
You know, I mean, we've definitely been doing that. It's shoot, in Columbus, it's almost 100 homicides. 100 right now, you know, it's a bit much.
Yeah. Hey, it's going to be a hot summer, especially with a lot of states adopting constitutional carry, or at least entertaining the concept of constitutional carry. Texas passed it. So September 1st, 2021, constitutional carry will be in effect. So, and I think a lot of states are fighting back in one form or another. So I think that's no different from what Ohio did with the police about it being unlawful for you to be within X amount of feet of them. I think that's just them fighting back against reform.
Yeah, I could definitely see why you would say that. I mean,
but to me, to fight back against police reform is like, you know, that these situations are happening. You know that there are a ton of dirty cops. You know this. So is it like when you had the officers in New York, when they had the mass exodus because they couldn't put people in chokeholds anymore? You quit your job. You claim that you want to be a police officer because you want to protect and serve. Every police officer will give you that same story. But you walk off the job because you can't put somebody in a chokehold? Really? What part of protect and serve is that? That's what made you walk off the job.
Listen, the devil's mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. And he'll do it at any cost and through anybody. You know, and this is a whole nother mentality that, you know, we're having, that we've seen, because things have been so watered down in the past up until now, you know, and now we've got, you know, one of the biggest tools that we could possibly have in social media. So now this is, you know, we got to find a way to just try to adapt, because right now, and until, you know, organization happens, ain't that really we really can do about it right now. You know, we're divided more than ever. You know, I don't remember who it was that I was talking to the other day, but I made a point and I said, look, you know, well, first thing we need to do is quit sending these white cops to black situations. You know, just like that 16-year-old girl, Ma'Khia Bryant. You know, if that would have been a black cop, that black cop would be better, you know, relatable to them and be able to de-escalate the situation before that even happened.
But you know what? I don't think it's just about being black or white. And I agree with you.
No, it's not. I was driving home a point.
Oh, go ahead.
You know, but instead, you know, we sent they sent the white cop in there, and look what happens. Now you can tell that's them being from two totally different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we know a black cop would have handled that differently. I'm pretty sure of that. You know, because this kind of thing is not in our nature, especially against our people. You know, we wouldn't have reacted so badly.
See, I disagree. I think some of us do. Just like back in slavery times, what was the one thing, or back in civil rights times, what was the one thing that white men hated more than black men?
Black unity.
No. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. What was the one thing white men hated more than niggers? Nigger lovers, right?
Ooh.
So it's the traitor. So there are traitors in every community. So I believe that there are a lot of black men. So for me, that's why I said I don't think it's just about black or white. I think it's about the environment that you grew up in. I agree, but I think it needs to be about more so environmental. So if you grew up in the projects and then now you're an officer, you can police the projects, and a lot of that has to do with the idea or concept of fear. So for me, you always hear the whole "I fear for my life." That's always their argument. So if that's the case, for me, because I see such a disparity in treatment between the mass shooters, who, when you walk on the scene, they have rifles. They killed 27 individuals and harmed 52, as opposed to the unarmed black man who is only a suspect and who just fits a description. And Lord knows their description is anything under the sun. So you see the difference in the treatment. So for me, it's not just about the color. You actually have to talk about the environment that they grew up in. So if you grow up in the projects, you don't fear the same things that you would fear had you not. So you take the officer that grew up in the suburbs. You put him in the suburbs because that's the environment he's accustomed to. He knows the people that hang out on the corners. He's aware of the popular gas station that those are just young kids. They go there every weekend and pop fireworks, or those kind of neighborhood stories because you're accustomed to that environment. It's the environment you grew up in. So whatever society you come from, whatever environment you grew up in, that's what you should be policing. That way you eliminate a lot of that fear. Don't get me wrong. You can still have situations where you fear for your life. Anytime your life is in danger, there should be some sense of fear. But you reduce that automatic fear because this is something different. Oh, he's a large black guy. That's not enough to be afraid of somebody. There are a lot of large black men that wouldn't harm a butterfly. So just being large and black is nothing to fear. Now, being large and black and I'm attacking you, now that's a totally different story. But you put people in environments that they're comfortable with. So you take away, if you know that that's Pookie on the corner, who he always come out there every day. Matter of fact, we had a situation like that where I live. About 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a loud commotion outside. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I just heard a man screaming, they're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me. I'm like, what in the world? All of a sudden, they start running through the entire neighborhood. They're banging on people's doors. And I'm like, what is going on? So we step outside. Come to find out, one of my neighbors had said that he called the cops because he said the guy had tried to break into his house. So I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that. So, the cops are on their way. You start to hear the sirens and the lights and everything. Well, then that was the initial story. Somebody broke into somebody's house. Well, then as more of the neighborhood started coming out, they started realizing, and now mind you, the guy who said he broke into the house, he's the new guy in the neighborhood, right? He's only been here like 4 months at the time of the incident. So when everybody else in the neighborhood came outside, what they said was he had actually got a hold to some bad drugs and he was hallucinating. He thought somebody was trying to kill him. So what he was doing was going from door to door, trying to knock on somebody's door to get somebody to let him in. So 2 totally different stories. One guy said he broke into my house. It just so happened when he pulled on his door handle, the door was unlocked. So he came in the house. So I can see from that appearance, it looks like somebody broke into your house. But everybody in the neighborhood who knew this guy, who knew he had never acted like that, who knew something must have happened, come to find out, that's exactly what happened. He ended up getting a hold of some bad drugs and he was hallucinating. They ended up taking him to a medical facility and he was okay. But 2 different versions of that story. So if you put people in environments that they're accustomed to, you take away the initial fear. And it allows you more time to assess the situation.
Right. So, this is an ongoing problem. We've been having with the police and everything else. And I mean, it's just been a mess. I think on both parties. But, the trick I'm starting to find out lately is how we're pointing the finger at each other, yet there is one entity that's getting all the money and that's got all the power and got all the control. And guess what? It ain't neither one of us.
Right.
So let's just keep it all the way 100. We're not each other's enemy, y'all. And we really need to start acting like it. And I think it's time, we all just chilled out and thought from a different perspective. Play devil's advocate with yourself. And then maybe and maybe then, we can make some sense of all of this garbage and get to the real problem. Because the thing is, we can't eat from the leaves of equality until we pull from the root of the tree of inequality. I wrote that a couple days ago. Like it, Miss D?
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thank you. I was just asking.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think those are the conversations that really need to be had in the Black community. I think mistrust is inbred in us. I think the reason why we're pointing fingers at each other is the reason why. Right. It's inbred. Exactly. It started with meritorious manumission, and it is so inbred in our culture that we just have a natural, it's like it's innate for us to distrust one another. Then you went through colorism, light skin versus the dark skins, that you got feminists, you got the black man versus the black woman versus the black man. You got so many things in the Black community that have caused us to have conflict with one another. That mistrust is actually inbred in us, and it's sad. And now that you have the issue where you got so many people in the Black community actually wanting to spend more dollars in the Black community, but you've got a slew of individuals who are having debates about how do we do that? Which stores can we do this? Or why do we give up this holiday? Why I can't celebrate this holiday? And even when they do decide to go support a Black business, then you have the ones that say, oh, well, I didn't get this type of customer service that I'm accustomed to, or they messed up this. But yet and still, McDonald's has been messing up your order for the last 27 years, and you keep going there every other day. Walmart has been screwing up forever. You keep going to Walmart. So we keep allowing no different from our beauty products. We spent how much money is spent in the Asian community from the Black community? How many dollars are being siphoned out of the Black community into the hands of the Asian community? But no matter how many times they accuse us of stealing, you got video after video where you have an individual buying $300 worth of hair, but you got a store owner, an Asian store owner, tackling them to the ground over some $4 lashes. Like, really? But no matter how many times these situations keep happening to us, we'll continue to support those businesses. But let the Black community mess up one time, all of a sudden, nobody can do business with them again. We've got to stop.
You're right. And at the end of the day, we've got to ask ourselves questions. Mainly just ask why. And usually when we find out why, we follow that paper trail. And once we follow that paper trail, we usually get to the root of the problem, which, kind of brings us into, our next segment. There was an article that was done. And, when I looked at this, I said, I can't believe this shit. But you know what? I kind of seen it coming, and for a lot of reasons. So, Facebook, the Texas governor says Facebook failed to protect against teen sex trafficking, paving the way for tech companies to be held liable when they're used for criminal activity. So, in other words, if someone uses Facebook for criminal activity, they can go to jail for that. Not Facebook, but the party using. And Facebook is basically saying, hey, we're not liable for your shit anyway. Now, Miss D, I can't hear you. You're way far away. Okay. While Miss D is doing that, might I point out too is that you look at the social media giant. They're gaining a lot of power, but here's getting ready to be the problem. This is bad publicity. This is very bad publicity. Think of the negative kind of tone that this actually has on Facebook. Think of how many people have been affected in a negative manner, due to their platform and them not being able to police it properly. First of all, I think you can do too much with it. You have to learn how to use moderation when you do things like that, and a lot of people don't. And I'm probably one of them, although I use it mainly for social media purposes, and due to my career. Um, Now, what they're telling you, what you can and cannot say, is something else. And I think that at the end of the day, we really have to be careful about. Well, I'm not saying what we say, but how we say it. Gotta watch that too. But I mean, if you feel like you don't vibe with that person and you're not, don't waste their time. Because this whole thing with Facebook has gotten out of hand. We got a lot of scammers out there, so watch for that. So anyway, glad you guys are watching the show. Um, you guys are watching the show, and we'll just keep it moving. Miss D should be back sometime soon. I don't know what's going on with that, but hopefully she'll get everything fixed. Oh, by the way, go to www.nofilterproductionsllc.com. Check us out. We got a whole bunch of stuff for you. And there she is. Hey, Miss D, welcome back.
Hey, I don't know what happened. I had some technical difficulties over here.
That's all right. I was just giving the website, but
Okay.
don't worry. But don't worry about it. We covered up real good on that one. Anyway, so going back to this Texas ruling.
Yeah, so now what's interesting, so it started over, I think in Houston, there were 3 victims of sex trafficking, and they all state that they met their abductors or whatever through Facebook Messenger. So, of course,
Right. And I just mentioned spam while you were gone. All this spam
really?
mail and scam. And you know what? Speaking of that, Miss D, yo, listen. I get rid of spammers all the time. I get at least 40 or 50 messages a day from people who are spamming. And I'll explain to you what they are. And I think, Miss D, not to cut you off, but I think these are some really important tips. And people can make their lives a whole lot better if they pay attention to what I'm saying. Because there are signs and there are different speech patterns that they give you to let you know exactly who they are if you pay attention. I mean, can I get an amen and praise God? Anyway, so number 1, instead of saying I am good, they'll say am good. You pay attention to that because that means that they have broken English. And when they have broken English, usually they ain't from here, Jack.
right?
They try to have good English, but it's broken. It's like they try too hard. You pay attention to stuff like that. Pay attention to things like when they say, "Hey, hello, how are you? How are you?" Blah blah blah. Hey, have you heard about this? Boom. Don't say no. Just say no. I tell them to get a job, but that's just me because I know what they look like. Pixelated pictures. The pixels are all big and stuff, and the screens is really funny.
Right.
They're they're not like the normal pictures that shot in 2.5 to 4K.
Right.
That's another way to tell if they're spam. I mean, so if you pay attention to these things and these small little details, you'd be surprised how you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a spammer.
Right.
Pay attention to the questions they ask, and you'll know. Look at their profile, stuff like that. And Miss D, I just had to put that out there because I figured I'd give the people $1 million a game for free.
Hey, I feel you on that. I just ignore them all. I got so many I've gotten to the point where I can tell they're spammers just by looking at their image, their profile pic, and how the message comes across. I got so many unread messages, I just ignore them all. So
And
just like I do with the phone spammer, just like I did with the email spammers back in the day, I am so good on my ignore game. It's ridiculous.
man, let me tell you. I mean, spam is spam, and that's it. And you got to know the difference. So for all of y'all that don't know about that, there you go. Pay a damn attention, and it might save your life. Really.
But you know what? On top of the spam, can we please put an end to the chain letters? I am so sick of pass this on to 10 people and you'll be blessed for 15 years. And if you don't, I'm
gonna be blessed. Right.
And
I look at that shit and be like, look, I'm gonna be blessed any damn way.
I'm so sick of it. I thought chain letters went out of style when people stopped sending letters through the mail. They really need to cut that out. But yeah, so it started with the 3 local teams. And so Texas Supreme Court actually ruled that platform could be liable for the criminal activity that occurred on that platform. So it was interesting how Facebook automatically went to Section 230 that protects them. And basically Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, it just provides them immunity from third-party content. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that concept. I understand that they, if that's the case, if that's what you want to stand on, you're right. Section 230 does provide you with that immunity. You're not responsible for the words that come out of everybody's mouth. However,
that's true.
It's mighty funny how you don't want to be responsible for the words that come out of people's mouths or the actions that occur on your platform, but you want to censor anybody talking about femininity. You want to censor anybody that's talking anti-jab. You want to censor anybody that's talking about police reform, stolen elections. You want to censor everybody who has an opinion. You want to censor adults talking about other adults, but you don't feel the need to step in when there are actual victims, when there are children involved. So it was funny how they chose to hide behind 230 when it came to that. But I can't even spell the word woman on my Facebook page without getting flagged.
I can't say shit without getting flagged. Are you kidding?
So that was interesting.
I get it.
To me.
But you know what though? And I mean, I seen this coming, man. I really did. I was just like, here we go. And I mean, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's why I said, I mean, with that Ohio bill, man, this shit looking just like, well, we're just gonna go on ahead and head to martial law. Why not? Fuck it, we might as well.
And I have a feeling it's gonna get worse because the more they censor, the more of a divide they're creating. The more you're creating more tension. You're making people more angry. You're making people feel like they're being silenced because this is not about a lie. This is about an opinion, and a very valid one at that. Oftentimes these opinions are based off of a lot of facts, a lot of data we've been pulling up. So everybody is at odd ends with whether it's about politics and stolen elections, whether it's about COVID-19 and whether you should or should not get the jab, whether you believe in any of the restrictions, with the unemployment, whether people should be sitting at home being okay with this, whether everybody should be making $15 an hour, kids going back to school, whether they should, is it safe? Should parents stay at home? That whole argument. There are so many things that are keeping our communities at odds with one another.
Yeah, I mean, and you're absolutely right, because the more they divide, the more they seem to unify.
Right. And I think
and it's not like, and it's not like they're unifying on this pretense of, let's kumbaya and shit like that. These motherfuckers are shaking hands and signing dotted lines, Jack.
And you know what else? I think another issue that they have, an issue with social media was sold on the concept of connecting with one another, right? And it has served a great purpose for that. You can connect with people around the globe any time of day, night. It has been great for that. What social media has also done was brought a lot of knowledge to people who normally wouldn't have seeked it on their own. So you have the situation where, say, you're talking about police reform. And so you have the situations where typically in towns where all these stories were being swept up under the rug, you weren't typically hearing about it unless you lived in that city. It may have been 6 o'clock news in that particular city, but it may not have made national news. Well, what social media did was it made every local story national news. Because if I'm sitting at home and I'm seeing a story that's only being broadcast in Dallas, all of a sudden I show it on my social media page. Now it has the potential to reach the world. So you've taken all the local stories, and every single story is potential national news now. So you've gotten, like, for instance, you got the situation now where you've got family courts that are there. There's a battle with family courts. There's a battle with abortion rights.
Right.
So with family courts, you have platforms of men now. Social media platforms are flooded with men speaking out against feminism, speaking out against family courts, speaking out against the mistreatment of Black men and how Black women have actually contributed to their fight. Have they increased their struggle? So, and I don't think social media knew that it was going to spread so much knowledge. So you got men who were on child support before who felt like it was their individual story. I'm the only one going through this. You thought maybe your baby mama was different from everybody else, and you're the only one that's having to fight this fight. What social media did was made you realize that, hold on, this is not a one-off. This is not just happening to my neighbor down the street. This is happening in the next city. This is happening in the next state. Hold on, this is happening across seas. Everybody is talking about family courts and how they are gender biased. Social media had no idea it was going to turn into this. So I think a lot of the struggles that Facebook is facing right now with the cancel culture rhetoric, I think that there's going to be a hard look at, do we really want this much knowledge in the hands of everybody?
Well, yeah, because now, you got people like me who will use it to their best interest. And my best interest is freedom of speech for everybody, baby.
Right.
Everybody should have the right to say what they want to say, whether you're right, wrong, indifferent, or black, white, and in between.
Could you imagine how different the narrative would be right now with COVID if there was no social media and you only knew what was happening in your state or your city? Could you imagine the story that COVID would be if there was no social media?
Well, fact of the matter is, you're right. But, thing is, we learn how to adapt to overcome, too.
Right. We should.
And that's just what we do, as humans. We adapt to overcome. So if we can adapt to overcome to COVID, we can adapt to overcome, to, much other things. That's just what we do if we're left here, So I think.
Yeah, but I don't know how much faith I have in humanity.
Well, I have none, because eventually
right.
we will destroy ourselves.
Because humanity's biggest threat is humanity itself. Amen. Seriously.
Yes, sir. And I mean, that's kind of just it. We really got to be careful, people with what we do and what we say and how we go about doing shit now. Because look, it's getting dangerous out here, and you see how everything that is about as powerful as it can be on the face of this planet or even in this universe, all of it was written. Every spiritual book talks about the universe and the creation and how it was written.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write it, you have the scepter of creation. If you notice that everything that is built has been written. Can't build a house without blueprints. Can't have a movie without a script. Stuff like that. So, I mean, I think we have to think outside the box. Because the basic concepts just won't do these days. There's too many outlets and too many people saying the same thing. Right. And see, the definition of insanity, folks, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So dare to be different, dare to try new things, dare to try new concepts. Um, just as long it's not dangerous to the point where somebody is physically dying, that'll be all right. Mentally, shit. Well, some folks need to die mentally. Just really die so that way they can change their entire mindset and really get going. You know, but that's a whole nother thing. That's another time, another podcast, another article. You'll see it.
Hey,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
but that does bring me to a comment though. I'm with removing all warning labels from everything and just letting natural stupidity just get rid of all the weeds.
Get rid of all the weed.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Take off the warning labels on the bleach and the Tide Pods and just let natural selection work itself out. I mean, because that's where warning labels came from.
Yeah.
So I'm with removing them and just let natural selection just get rid of all the weeds.
Well, okay. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, and why not? Like I said, we got to try something different, shit, because what we do half the time don't work.
Hey, when everybody was upset about Trump making the comment about the bleach cocktail, I said, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, is anybody who wants to take the bleach cocktail, I say knock yourself out. Have fun. Have two. Knock yourself out. Let's just. Hey, I'm just saying. Let the laws of nature work themselves out. That's what I say.
I don't know if that's nature. That's more like probability.
If you're crazy enough to think you should drink a bleach cocktail, hey, laws of nature.
Yeah, laws of nature and probability. There's all kinds of laws, and believe me, them laws ain't favorable, Jack.
You're not bred to survive. Laws of nature.
No. And should you survive, that is the only time you're able to look me up, and however you can, and you get my number and you call me and you tell me, hey, I drunk bleach and I survived.
Right. And I can even see if this was back prior to warning labels. We've been knowing bleach is bleach for how long now? Right. So anybody who felt like they should have taken a bleach cocktail, I say have two.
Damn. You want to die twice.
I'm just saying, let the laws of nature work themselves out.
Ain't that a bitch? That's mean. Hell, I wouldn't even go there, but okay. I mean, shit, if that's how you feel. Yeah.
Hey, what did Forrest Gump stupid is as stupid does?
Man, that's facts. I was talking about Forrest Gump the other day. And how they had that meme on Facebook talking about, I wish somebody would love me like Jenny's ass love Forrest.
Man.
I'm like, man, listen. Or Forrest loved Jenny.
Love Jenny, yeah.
Yeah, because Forrest did love Jenny, but Jenny was a ho. I mean, she tattooed ho. Came up with
she only wanted to settle down with him when she got AIDS, right?
Right, when she caught the virus.
Right.
The real bumper clot.
Right.
Yeah, that's the real bumper clot there, because that's the first thing you do. They say, hey, you'll be like, ooh, bumper clot, good boy.
Right.
You done fucked up royally. But anyway, listen, folks, we've came, so far, and yet so little here to the end of our show. It's been fun for real, but we got shit to do. But before we do that shit, check us out, www.nofilterproductionsllc.com. Check us out on the No Filter Facebook page. We got show pages for everything, including Devil's Advocate. And I said at the beginning of the show, and I'm gonna say it here right now, to the fans, thank you. We love you for your support, and thank those who don't like what we got to say and they haters. Fuck you. But we'll keep giving you something to hate on if that's okay with you. Well, and as far as the Renegade personally, I'm just doing my thing. I've wrote a couple articles, and I mean, I got my first press release today. I can't wait to go see that movie, Miss D. Well, no. See, the thing is that I didn't even know such an event existed. It's called the Summer of Soul, and it's about the concert we had in Harlem during Woodstock. Um, would showcase people like Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, Sly and the Family Stone, a whole lot of folks. They dears, and this is archival footage that's never been seen before. Because that same weekend they had Woodstock, and well, everybody knows Woodstock, but ain't that something? And I thought, it's a tremendous honor to have a press release of that. So, and then you can check out the article on musicandmotion.com, and I'll probably have it on my personal page. I'll probably post it on the No Filter page. So, with that being said, Miss D, what you got?
Oh, just I'm in spring clean mode right now, so I've been packing up stuff, decluttering. Yeah, this is the time for me to declutter. So
Right.
I'm looking for the next chapter in life and wanting to walk into it with a little less noise in the house, I guess you should say. So yeah, that's all I'm focused on right now. As soon as I get off of this call, I will be back in cleanup mode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cleanup mode. Every now and again you gotta clean the shit up. That's how
Right?
it goes.
Yeah. Like, hey, I clean my house like I clean my head, and that's another thing people need to focus on: clearing mental space.
Man, don't I know it? Because I mean, it is what it is in life, and especially when you are who you are and you do what you do. Like me, I do a whole lot. I got a couple articles out. We're creating new content. We'll have a sports show called Change in the Game soon. It's with me, Bruiser from Bruiser Nation. It's Jason for all of y'all that don't know. And then we got Mr. Hand, Mr. James Hand in the house. We'll all be three taking turns rotating the show, and I'm working on some press passes right now so we can be able to get into the high school games. Really, really, shoot the show from there, and just have some fun. The narrative of this show is to take current events that's going on, NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer, whatever. We take those current events and compare them to events of the past. We'll have, we're putting together highlights, and we're doing this whole thing a whole nother way, because we may even get to shoot live, with all three of us in the same studio, one time during this season. We're gonna get that in for at least for you one time, because we're three busy men, so we'll work that out. But anywho, it's like I said, thank you, fans. Thank you to all the countries around the world. There are 9 of you. 9 of you, representing, looking at the website, checking out the shows we got here. Like, you're on Devil's Advocate. This is episode 53. We got the shit show coming up tomorrow at 7 p.m. And then we've got the double header next Thursday. We got Beats and Bars that comes on at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of these times are Eastern Standard Time, by the way. So we got After Dark coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that show is also with Roxy. We got a Miss Anissa. Hey, sis, hell of a job. I'm proud of you. You did great for your first show. I love it. We need to keep that. We need to keep the smoke rolling on that. Just saying. So we got about a minute 20 left, Miss D. Any last words?
Yeah, so my last word to the people would be about free speech. Of course, anybody who has listened to me knows I'm an advocate for free speech. I am not with the cancel culture. But one thing I want people to understand when it comes to free speech doesn't have to be disrespectful. Free speech doesn't have to be belligerent. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to berate anybody. You don't have to resort to the name calling. So in this movement towards free speech, one thing to be mindful of is to try to be respectful. You can have a difference of opinion. You could disagree with people. You can feel like the person you're talking to is a complete dumbass, but it doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful. It doesn't mean you have to resort to name calling. And one thing social media has done has turned everybody into a keyboard warrior, where the minute you disagree with someone's opinion, you're automatically all these different names, and so we've got to be a little bit more respectful. I'm with free speech. I'm with, hey, however you feel is how you feel, but let's have some engaging conversations. Let's have some real conversations. Let's actually talk with one another instead of at one another. So when it comes to free speech, let's just keep it respectful. Have your thoughts, have your ways, but you don't have to belittle anybody just because there's a difference of opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, look, this is the end of our show. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Renegade, and along with Ms. D, this is Devil's Advocate right here on No Filter. This is episode 53. Come back again. Same bat time-ish. Same bad channel, definitely. So come see us again. Hey, we love you guys. You guys stay safe. And we are out of here.
Y'all have a good one.